the symbol, that there really is somebody out there assisting you in looking at this equipment so that you don't necessarily have to be a technical expert on everything from membrane systems to sensors to spray dryers if you're into grade A powder or whatever it is that you're looking at. There are experts out there that are assisting you to raise your comfort level that this equipment does in fact meet the requirements. The third-party verification was implemented specifically to bolster the integrity of the symbol so that you knew when you were out in the field that it was in fact a conforming piece of equipment. And the system has worked very, very well since its inception. One of the things that standardization does is to put the information in similar places so you know where to look. There are 7 common elements of 3A sanitary standards. Generally, there's a scope to the standard that explains what type of equipment it's covering, puts a box around it so you know where it starts and stops and things of that nature. There are the normative references sections, tell you what other associated standards are related to a piece of equipment, because there's very few pieces of dairy equipment that are truly standalone. Maybe polished metal tubing is a standalone, but everything else has something else attached to it somewhere. Those normative references are identified. There's a definition of terms section that explains the unique terms or specialized terms that'll be used in the document. There's a description of the permitted materials that can be used. You know, some standards and some types of equipment, because of where they're used, you can use anodized aluminum. Others, you can't. These materials are identified. The heart of the document, of course, is the details of the fabrication. Over the years, the philosophy in the United States has always basically been that if you build a machine that is properly designed, properly engineered, and has all of the sanitary characteristics that will permit it to be cleaned, that if it is then operated properly, you will make a safe and wholesome food. Other parts of the world operated on the system that if the end result is okay, you get low bacterial counts, you get you get good composition out of the machine, and the food is wholesome coming out of the process, therefore the machine is considered satisfactory. Well, that philosophy is starting to lose ground, and the design features are starting to gain much more expectations. So 3A has always been, let's design it so the machine is truly cleanable. There are no residues left that shouldn't be there. You can get everything out of the machine, and it doesn't give you good results just because you sterilized it with hot water and steam. There are the appendixes, of course, that give the information that helps in the understanding of the document, and then there's an effective date of when the document goes into effect. So what is the format and style manual? Well, basically, it is a document preparation guide. It's for the writers of 3A standards and accepted practices. It's presented in 2 sections, a how to use manual, a portion of the section in the beginning, and then there are the preparation of 3A documents in section 2, which is basically a generic 3A standard or accepted practices that has all of the wording put in there. Bear in mind that 3A standards are not developed by professional standards writers. Since they all have day jobs of inspecting, running plants, or building equipment, when they're involved in 3A, they're all volunteers. So they're organized in multiple working groups, but this is not their first time job. So the format and style manual is to give them a leg up, to help them with terminology, definitions, words, explanations of materials to help them do their job so that we can get good standards written in as short a time as possible. And standards writing is hard work. You might think, well, you just sit down and you tell them what you want. Well, it's really not, and I'd like to do just a little simple exercise with you. On a piece of blank paper, make 7 blanks, 7 little dash blanks. And I'm going to give you a sentence. And I want you to put one word on each of the blanks. And then when we're all done, we'll see if everybody's got the same thing written down. Okay? The sentence is, there are 3 ways to spell two. For the last word, how many wrote T-O? How many wrote T-double-O? How many wrote T-O-O? How many wrote the numeral 2? Well, as you can see with the raised hands, you know, what you hear and what your mind's concept, it's a very easy concept to understand. Oh yeah, there's 3 ways to write 2. But how do you get that into a document so everybody understands? So standards writing is really hard work, and we are very, very fortunate to have a dedicated group of volunteers that assists us. In the format and style manual, the section 1 gives a very good and clear description of each of the sections of the document that were on the previous slide. In the how to use section 1 of the document, we've tried this to standardize across the standards again, to assist people who are readers of the standards after they're completed. We've tried to standardize on what abbreviations are used. We utilize dual dimensioning since a lot of information comes from other parts of the world. 3A standards are established with the inch-pound as the primary dimensioning, but we also throw in the metric system in parentheses after every type of measurement that is in the document. The rules of conversion in standards are exact conversions. We have debated back and forth a number of times to use exact conversions versus practical conversions, but we control the precision of these numbers by limiting it to 3 significant digits. The second part of the format and style manual is boilerplate wording. These are segments that of wording that have been compiled over the 50 plus years of 3A sanitary standards. We find that the wording is understood. These are words that you folks have used continually. You're comfortable with the words, and that just because it's termed boilerplate doesn't necessarily make it bad. What the writers of the standards are advised, though, is don't become slaves to the boilerplate wording. Use it when it meets your needs, but if you have a new piece of equipment or something, a new process where it doesn't actually fit the boilerplate, it's perfectly legitimate and desirable to deviate and to make the standards as accurate and descriptive of the type of equipment is used. So for the most part, you'll find that the boilerplate wording is very consistent across standards. The advantage of boilerplate is that it helps the approval and review process go much quicker. People see the same paragraphs, they understand the paragraphs, they know what they mean, they've worked with it, they've lived with it, they've utilized it in the field, so they know that the words are good. And so it can go through the approval process of all 3 of the stakeholder groups very quickly. What is the format and style manual not? Well, like I said, its primary purpose is a guide to standards developers. It's not an all-inclusive presentation of the criteria that may show up in a 3A document. It's the most common criteria. If something only shows up in maybe one standard, it won't be in the format and style manual. It's something that's so unique to that brand of or type of equipment, the only place you'll find it is in that piece of equipment, because the working group that's developing that standard had to develop something special and unique for that type of equipment. The format and style manual is for the more general stuff, the things that crop up more frequently. So one thing you should not use is the format and style manual as an inspection document. It's not intended as an inspection document. It is intended to give you the concepts of 3A, but if you use the format and style manual as an inspection document, you may very well miss something that is germane to the equipment in front of you that's not covered in the format and style manual. Don't carry a copy of the format and style manual, which is available for download off the website, because you don't want to carry 72 other standards in the trunk of your car. And you can put it all in just one binder. We advise you not to do that because it doesn't fit all types of equipment. So it's not a substitute for a sanitary standard or accepted practice, even if there's one in existence, but it's definitely not one for use on equipment that isn't standardized. It doesn't confer any 3A status to a non-standardized piece of equipment or system. The only thing that can do that is an accepted practice or a standard. You can use some of the information, and it would be foolish of me to stand up here and tell you that, well, you shouldn't apply the radius concepts, because we know they're good ones. But in point of fact, you shouldn't be citing the format and style manual as a reference of why you're making this decision. You have to do it under your own PMO guidelines and things like that, your own inspection guidelines. It's not an upgrade for existing documents. The format and style manual is updated probably more frequently than other documents within 3A because as new things come out and the discussions bring new ideas forward, new technologies come along, the format and style manual tends to be updated and in some respects kind of lead the pack of the others. But you have to, as with any standard, any regulation, any document that you use, you have to use the document as currently written. So if the format and style manual has something that is a really cool thing and is really something that should be there, if it's not in the standard yet, it's not appropriate to use it as an upgrade. You have to follow the standards as written. And there are methods for getting documents updated, notifying me with the steering committee so that we can get it, a new idea or a new process or an upgrade to a standard in the works, an amendment. There are methods of updating the documents, but just arbitrarily inserting them out of the format and style manual is truly not appropriate. And as I said before, even though it's boilerplate wording that everybody is comfortable with, it doesn't have to be followed at the expense of accuracy or clarity to the document. We don't want things shoehorned into boilerplate just because boilerplate's easy. And we tell that to our document writers all the time, is that if it really doesn't fit, you got to tweak the words so that it is accurate for the type of equipment that you're using. The next segment of this is going to be going through a lot of the boilerplate wording that we have. The words, as with standards and regulations, the words are the heart of the document. What they say, what they mean, what their intent is. And again, the cautionary wording of boilerplate, if it doesn't really fit, don't use it. we try to operate under our bylaws that our standards development procedures are under ANSI rules, the American National Standards Institute for writing standards. And this is a kind of an umbrella group that oversees hundreds of standards.